Hey guys, welcome back to another devlog video. I am ArtDude47, and in today's episode, I'll be looking at cleaning up a little bit of what I did last episode. There's some messy code there that I made commenting things out that I need to take care of, and I'm going to look at cleaning up the UI a little bit, as well as adding a few features from Tokimeki Memorial. So you may already notice I've changed how the UI looks just a little bit to create some extra space. This may not be what it looks like in the end, but right now I think this is what it's going to look like, just so that way I can start working on the first thing I want to add, which is that scrolling background from Tokimeki Memorial. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into coding and get that taken care of first. Alright, so I've taken a few minutes to code this. It's actually really easy to implement, so I'll just show you real quick exactly how it works. First, I drew a quick grid image, colored every other square, and the important thing with the image is to have the wrap mode as repeat, since we want this to scroll and keep repeating. And then I have a quick script that handles it. Real easy, you use a raw image for this. I've got a float called scroll speed, so that way you can change how quickly it scrolls. Also, if you were to implement this yourself, you could do two different floats, one for the X speed and one for the Y speed, in case you want to change to just horizontal or just vertical, or different speeds. But then basically you just do the image.uvrect equals a new rect, you give it the current position plus the scroll speed times time.delta time, and you just give it its current size. And that's literally it. Now if I play, we get a very similar effect to what you had in Tokimeki Memorial, and it just infinitely scrolls like that. Now of course, you don't see this much of the scrolling background on Tokimeki Memorial, so I also added a temporary image, just so that way you can kind of take a look at what it would look like if there was a background. So if I had a background image that I had drawn, I just haven't gotten one yet, it looks something more like that. You'd see the background image and then there would be the scrolling effect everywhere else. And in the end, I may even change it so there's no scrolling effect in like the little gaps here with the UI. I know that doesn't exist on Tokimeki Memorial, and I don't know if it might be a little too distracting. So we'll play around with that, I'm not sure yet, but we've got the scrolling effect implemented for now. So now there's a few other things I want to work on with cleaning up the code, so I'm going to get into that next. Checking back once again, I have gone ahead and updated to add a feature that's in Tokimeki Memorial that I quite like, and that definitely was needed. So let me show you what I've got going on now. If we go ahead and play the game, and if I just focus on studying humanities, you'll see that the numbers change color to indicate whether they're going up or down. That was something relatively quick that I added just to have that little effect, and I can change to do different things, and you'll see the numbers update and then they go back to displaying in black. So I'll show you how I accomplish that real quick as well. We're in my UI manager class, and I already had this function update stats. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking if the player stat is currently larger than the text that's in the player stat field. And if it is, it's starting this coroutine, update number, true, health text, and then the stats. And so the update number, it takes a bool whether the number is higher or lower, so true if higher, false if it's lower. Then it takes a text field that it needs to update and what the value it's updating is. And so you could see else if it's not larger, all it's doing is calling the same coroutine but false. Now all the coroutine does is it takes the text field .text, changes it to value.toString, so it changes the value, and if it's higher it changes the color to green, otherwise it changes the color to red. We wait for a certain amount of seconds, which I'm calling color time. Basically the seconds is just a little bit shorter than how long a day takes, and then we change back to black. And that's all that it takes to get that little effect. We may look at making the effect a little fancier in the future. I may look at either making the number grow a little larger as it changes to kind of draw your attention to that, or we may do an effect where you watch the number change one at a time, so it adds one at a time instead of just switching to the new number. We'll take a look at that, but for now that's what I've added. So I'm going to get back into coding and see what else I can get done for this episode. Alright, so I'm checking back in. I quickly threw together a little bedroom background. It's not quite done yet. I'm going to add a bed and some books on the bookshelf, things like that eventually. There's going to be something outside of the window, of course. But just kind of a look at what this will look like when backgrounds are introduced. I may do some resizing, things like that, but right now this is just a quick look at exactly what I'm thinking it's going to look like. So there will be backgrounds here, scrolling background will be behind that, and so I'll just run it again so you can kind of get a feel for how it looks with the background. And now mind you, this won't be clear. I'm going to draw something behind the window as well. That'll kind of change depending what time of the day it is, things like that. So with that being said, I think the next thing I really need is a UI for the calendar. We're going to need to be able to see the calendar, see what holidays are coming up, what events are coming up, as well as just clicking and choosing dates to invite people out on a date. So the next thing I'm going to put together is this calendar UI, and we'll get started on that now. Alright, so I got that quick calendar UI put together here. I went ahead and just added a little exit button as well in the corner, so that way we can close out of it, and if I disable it, I added a little calendar here just so we can pull it back up while we're playing. So the next thing to tackle, it needed some code to work, so I've been working on that a bit. I ended up writing its own UI script instead of including it in the UI manager, because I thought it was going to be a bit complicated, that it was going to need to do a lot of things, and I think I was correct in doing that. So let me show you how I've put it together. It's not done yet, there's still some more stuff that it needs to be able to do, but we've got the game object calendar background, that's for closing and opening the calendar. We've got a calendar day prefab, that's the little squares that represent a day of the week. So we've got a prefab for that so we can instantiate it. We've got the transform for this month's background, next month's background, then we've got the year text, this month text, and next month text. Then I've got two colors, weekend color and current day color, just so I can kind of change how the calendar looks. Then I also had to do a list of this month and next month, and that's just going to contain all of the prefabs that are in the month. I'm treating this as a singleton as well, so we've got it here set up. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've got this set up calendar, which will determine the current date. So it takes date time, current date equals new date time. It just grabs it from the time manager instance. So it grabs everything from time manager. And then we calculate the days in the month, so the number of days in month. Then we set up the year text. So if the current month's not December, then we just make the current year a string. If it is December, then we need current year and next year, because of the current month, it displays 2 months at a time, so it's going to be showing December and January, so it'll show both years. Then we calculate what weekday is the first day of the month, meaning like, is it a Monday, is it a Tuesday? So first day of the month equals new date time, current year, so I just set it to the first, so it's the current year, current month, but it's the first day, and then we check, we get that back as an int. So if it's not equal 0, meaning it's not a Sunday, then what we need to do is instantiate some empty calendar slots to take up those spots, so that way we can make the month start on the correct day. So that's all I've done here. I've instantiated calendar prefab, added it to this month background, and then I'm getting the Text Mesh Pro and just setting the text to nothing, and then I'm setting the color to transparent, so that way you don't actually see them there, but they take up space. And then we populate the calendar slots for every day in the month, so we just do for I = 0, less than days in the month, and we instantiate, put it on this month's background. We get the component in Children Text Mesh Pro UGUI, and I change the text to I+1 to string, and that's just going to make it the day number. Then we add that to the... So then I've got to populate next month, which does pretty much the same thing except for the next month. And then we call update colors. Update colors basically checks first if the calendar panel is the current day, then it changes it to current day color. If it's a weekend, changes it to weekend color. Otherwise, the color is just white. And then we've got a show calendar and a hide calendar, which just sets them to transparent. Update colors is called on show calendar, so that way it can update the daily colors every time you click on it. So that's literally all the code for now. There's going to need to be more because we also are going to need the functionality to schedule dates when you click on specific days, and so it's going to need to check and make sure that those dates aren't in the past, because obviously you will not be able to schedule dates in the past and things like that. But let me go ahead and show it to you running, and I'll show you how it's working. Alright, so in the game here, if I click the show calendar, you'll see I've got a populated calendar. The month is starting on the correct day of the week. The next month's populating correctly as well. The current day is showing up as this yellow, and weekends are showing up as this green. Now I'm just now realizing I forgot to make the weekends populate as green on next month's calendar, so I'll take care of that real quick and get it corrected. But before that, we will study, and we'll make it go to Saturday, so that way I can just show you what happens when I pull it back up. You'll notice if I pull it back up, Monday got set back to white, and now Saturday's yellow, just indicating, hey, this is today. Right now, all they display is the day number. I do plan on adding little icons to them. I think that will help. So, for instance, it could show a picture of a girl's face to show you have a date that day, or like a Christmas tree to show that it's Christmas, you know, so different ones will be populated a little more to kind of let you know what's going on those days of the week. Alright, so I'm going to quickly go ahead and just fix that issue that it's not populating the next month, so I'll do that real quick. Alright, so back in Unity once again, I got that fixed. I've done something else to demonstrate to you real quick, and it actually helped me discover a bug, so I'll tell you about that as well. Basically what I did was I set the day to the 29th, just so that way we could see it move on to the next month, and that happens to be a Thursday. So first I'll show you the calendar, just showing you it populates the 29th. Now next month's weekends are green as well. And here's the bug I found out. If I spend some time, the game automatically assumes that if it's a weekday, it's Monday. So it goes through 5 days. And now it may always be a Monday. You know, the game may never actually run into this example, but I'm thinking, you know, on holidays, things like that, where you might get extra time, that could lead to problems, so that's something I will have to fix. But now you can see it's Tuesday, October 4th. We pull up the calendar. We have a bit of issue here that I didn't notice before, so we'll need to take care of that. But as you can see, and I think I know what's going on here, so I'll take a look at my code in a second, but as you can see, we've got October here now. Mostly populating correctly, other than these aren't populating empty, and then we've got November. So we'll jump into code real quick because I'll show you what I think is going on. Basically, I've got a function here in the calendar UI for a new month, and what it does is it deletes all of the children for this month's background because we don't need those anymore, and then it changes this month's text to next month's text. And then what it does is it goes through all the children in next month's background and it adds them to this month's background because you don't need to recreate them. They already exist. We just need them to be on the other month's background. So it's just basically removing them from one and adding them to the other. And then we have to reverse the list because they come in backwards. See, I'm having to go through the list negatively. So I've got this month.reverse to reverse the list, and then I've got this little function that just sets the child to the last index. So what's happening here is that when I am adding them to this month, I'm not checking if they're empty or not, so all of them are getting added. When they shouldn't all get added, only the ones that are populated should get added. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that real quick, and I'll show you back when I get it working. So it ended up being easy enough to fix. Basically all I did was I added a check, and if the child's textmessagepro.text is empty, then we're not adding it to the list of objects. And since they're not getting added, they're not being considered for the color placement. So now if I play, you can see, of course, current month populates correctly. We choose an action and go into the next month. You can see it's now populating correctly. We've got the first on a Saturday. It is currently Tuesday the 4th. So everything there is now populating correctly. And so now we can go through months at a time and everything should work. There's one more thing I do want to try, which is setting the current month to 12, because I think I might have an issue there because I checked if it's 11 because I thought it starts at 0, but it might start at 1. So we'll take a look at that real quick. So we've got Thursday, December 29th. So you see this is populating correctly. It's got January, but it should be showing next year's year as well. So let me fix that real quick, because I told you I thought I knew exactly what would cause that not to show up correct. So that check should be 12 instead of 11. And the reason for that is it looks like the month starts on 1, not on 0. I was thinking 0 for January, but it treats that as 1. So now if we pull it up, you'll notice we got 1983/1984 because January will start that 1984. And of course you notice they just work. It doesn't matter what day of the week the month starts on. Now with all of this, they populate correctly. It looks like a calendar, and it works without me needing to tweak it for each individual month. So that's what I was going for. And I'm very happy with how it turned out. Now there are more functions that need to be added, like the ones I was talking about. Eventually there needs to be some pictures for holidays, things like that. But for now, I think this is a good working calendar UI. This is what I kind of wanted to accomplish. So I think with that being said, this is a good spot to end this episode. We've got the calendar UI going. We've got the UI looking good. We've got everything kind of working. So I think next we need to dive deeper into the gameplay. Next, we may need to start looking at adding in some NPC characters or maybe some events. I'm not quite sure what we'll work on next time, but we'll definitely get deeper into making the gameplay more engaging next time. In the meantime, I do thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind leaving a like, it helps out a lot, and please subscribe if you want to keep up with the development of this game. See you guys in the next one.